Hey guys, welcome back to Brothers Off Script. I'm Jerry,
I'm Ryan.
and we are talking about violence,
We're talking violence. We're talking
gun violence,
gun violence.
sharp rocks and pointy sticks.
As one person said recently.
We're gonna have an awesome video. If you're interested in gun violence at all, I will wholeheartedly advocate you watch this video by Bill Whittle. If you haven't heard of Bill Whittle, he does a lot of political stuff, but this video on guns just really kind of gets to the point.
Link in the description below.
And the argument is really that the United States has lots of guns, right? And thus, everybody's dying from guns, and gun violence is horrible. And
He does a really good job explaining it.
He goes through all the facts. He goes through all the details. We won't repeat it all here, but if you're interested in that, the fact is that the United States is not even in the top half of all countries in the world for murders per capita,
Overall.
even though it's number one for gun ownership.
It's not the gun. It's the person operating the gun. And that's the main thing. If I own a gun, which I can say now, adult male over the age of 30, and I have a firearm in my house, and I am not deathly afraid of my child, my two and a half year old child, getting my gun and somehow shooting himself in the head, because I took precautions in storing this weapon, with the ammo is locked up, right? I don't currently own a gun safe. The ammo is locked up. It's in a lockbox. The key is in a separate
And that's
location.
the part that's actually important.
You can poke somebody in the eye with the end of it, which end works. Yeah, this end is the danger end. Don't point that at you. You can poke somebody with that end and still do some damage. But there's not even a magazine in which to load the weapon. So it's all locked up. And it's in a very hard to reach area, which means it's pretty much only me that can have access to it. But I'll shortly rectify that with an actual gun safe.
I think I wanted to, and I wanted to. You brought this up as a topic for tonight, but I really, I kind of wanted to say, like, we've talked about this before. We view these in many cases as kind of, hey, what's the message, or what does this mean for us as parents? We're both dads. We both have kids. What I think about it is even, and this, it's not a gender issue. Boys, girls, whatever you have, like, I think as a parent need to teach your children about weapons and how they work.
And whether you're for or against,
whether you're for or against it, whether you believe in gun ownership, you don't believe in gun ownership, I feel like parents need to teach their children about weapons because
they exist.
Because you don't know what necessarily your kids are going to get into when they go to somebody else's house, right? You don't know what their friends do. You don't necessarily know what their friends' parents do. Like, being a responsible parent to me means that there's a responsibility of, if I'm going to tell my kids not to jump in the neighbor's swimming pool, and I'm going to worry about what foods they eat, and I'm going to worry about them getting enough exercise and being healthy and playing outside enough and getting enough sun and getting their vitamins, I need to teach them about this fact of life, is that there are dangerous things in this world that need to be understood so that the kids can be kept safe.
Yep.
Now, my kids are still, I would say, I think they're a little bit too young still. They're all still under the age of 10. But I think about 10 years old is when we'll probably start really kind of getting into just looking at how are you responsible with this safely.
I think we've all seen, YouTube videos of gun fails, where the person holds the gun that's too big for them and they fall backwards in the chair. It's really funny.
It's scary, though.
But then there's the other videos where, the little kid pulls out, it looked like an Israeli wedding or something like that, and she just grabs this guy's 45 out of his holster on his hip, and she couldn't have been bigger than 6, and she shoots him right in the stomach, and it's on video, something that really happened. And it's like, I think that there's
scary.
A way to avoid that situation, being responsible. And I don't think I would even consider owning a weapon if I didn't think I was responsible. But then again, irresponsible people kind of think that they're responsible sometimes. So
True.
Maybe I am irresponsible. But as it is right now, I've already taken those steps. And so I think as long as I'm diligent and I never treat it like a toy because there's so many lifelike toy guns out there, you know, and then you've got airsoft and you've got, paintball. You got,
And I'll say those guns get people killed, right?
Yep.
And the people that those guns get killed are the person holding it, because children who are allowed to just play with these toy guns, these airsoft guns, like they're just toys and it's not that big of a deal. Oh, I'm just going to buy them one for Christmas. Oh, I saw one for sale at Walmart. I'm just going to get this BB gun. Oh, it looks so cool. It looks like a 45. That's incredibly dangerous, especially if you haven't taught your child about firearm safety anyway.
Yeah.
You're opposed to guns, but you'll get your kids an airsoft gun.
That little orange tip is not going to save their life.
Yeah, it comes off with a plier, right?
Well, it's not even that. I dropped mine and it popped off. I mean, I dropped it and broke the tip of my airsoft rifle and it popped off. It looked like a real AR after that. So.
Children who play with those outside of their backyards get shot, right? So the responsible side of gun ownership is teach your kids, and it's critical, I think, to their safety, that you don't point it at something you don't want to shoot, that it's not a toy. And that it's very, very dangerous, and that it needs to be handled like it's dangerous. It needs to be kept with the ammunition separate from the weapon.
Yep.
You need to use trigger locks. You need to use gun safes. You need to use those things to keep weapons and children separated until it's time to practice,
Yep.
right? Using a weapon in a responsible way. You don't have to buy one. You can go down to a range and rent one for a couple hours. And this is why I say, like, if you're opposed to gun ownership, you don't have to buy a gun to teach your kids about guns, but you can certainly go down to a gun range and teach your kids what a pistol is, what a rifle
Even if I was
is.
never going to own a gun, I'd still go through the gun safety course. Not just word
Most
of
of the time, those are very cheap too,
Yeah.
if not free in some cases, because they're designed to keep children safe.
free for kids under a certain age, and then certifications and things like that can come later for cost. But it's not the gun. It's the same bumper sticker. It's not the gun that kills people. It's the bullet, or it's not the what is it that people say? Gosh, I had it in the tip of my tongue, but it's
People kill people.
people kill people. It's not the gun. And if we're aware of our surroundings, and no one can plan for every eventuality. No one can basically avoid every drive-by in life, whether that's somebody throwing a yogurt at the side of your car or something. But you can't just remain ignorant or expect this situation to not to just go away, because I'm just going to protect my kids from sex, or I'm not going to teach my kids about sex, and that way they won't have sex. It's like that way
That's not responsible.
they do it, and then they didn't know that they weren't supposed to, and somebody's pregnant now. You have to be informed to make the right decision. If you remain ignorant, or you let your kids be ignorant, then they're going to make the wrong decision when they go into that situation and they find the cool dad's gun who has too many, and he's got for whatever reason he slipped the gun under his pillow. It's weird. Don't do that. You shoot yourself in the head.
Don't leave loaded shotguns.
Yeah,
laying around your house. But I'll say this too, right? Like we all as parents, we want our kids to be safe, right? So we send our kids to swimming classes, and we send our kids to camping trips, and we send our kids to public schools or private schools where they're supposed to be safe, or we homeschool our kids to make sure they're safe. Like, everyone's trying to keep their kids safe. Part of that is exposing them to things that are out there in the world in a responsible manner with good boundaries, so that you can be a good parent and so that you can keep your kids safe.
Some of the worst situations are by the people who should be more responsible too. I mean, I didn't start to hear about major issues like this maybe in the last 5 to 6 years, but a couple of police officers had a weapon in their car, and the kids were like, he put the gun under the seat, and the kid saw where he put it, and he went in to pay for the gas or something like that, and the kid shot their brother or sister in the car while he was in paying for gas,
Crazy.
because he took his weapon out because he didn't want to open carry. in a public place, and this is a police officer. So even some of the people who are most responsible can make mistakes, and there's always going to be a way around those mistakes, you know.
I will say too, and I, as a person who enjoys games and gaming, I don't believe that video games cause violence to occur. I believe that like a lack of boundaries causes violence to occur, and a lack of being really responsible as a parent. And sometimes exposure to a lot of drugs, right? A lot of those antipsychotics and antidepressants really affect kids negatively. Some affect them positively, but being aware of what your children are around extends to what they're watching and what they're playing as well, right? Like flip the case over, look at the back,
Yeah,
right?
It's got a mature rating for blood and gore, and
I've seen a lot of parents who are like super anti-gun, and yet they're letting their kids play
Call of Duty.
everything that they want because it's just a game, right? So there's if we're in this culture, we're in a place where the movies are going to be full of guns, right, and glorifying how cool it is to flip guns around. The reality is, if you flip a pistol around and it's loaded, you're going to shoot yourself, likely, right? It's not a revolver, if you try to quick draw, you're going to shoot yourself in the leg. Like, being responsible as a parent means knowing what your kids are doing, and it also means making sure that you give them a chance to practice in a safe environment so they can know how big of a deal it really is. Like you said, when they find that gun somewhere. So that's it for me. Do you have any final thoughts?
I don't think I've gotten the bug. That's a good thing. I'm not going to go crazy and buy a bunch of guns. But as opportunities come around in my life, I think that I'm always going to take them in a sense. Like I'm not going to be afraid that it might happen with my child or children or kids' friends or anything like that, because I'm going to be taking the necessary steps. But it's not so much a recreational tool as it is, like, if I had to hunt with it or something, then I think that's where it would come into play, kill my own meat or something like that. But no, I'm just not going to be afraid. I'm not going to be afraid constantly of all the things that might be, because you can't go through life like that. You got to kind of take control and say, like, I own this now, and now I'm going to be in charge of it, so therefore it's not going to become a problem for me.
Good deal. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We really appreciate each and every one of you that tunes in. Please share, comment, subscribe. And if you don't like what we're doing, give us that thumbs down, and tell us why in the comments below. Have a great week.
You too. Bye.